For more on this, CBS Sports writer Bill Reiter and the host of Reiter Than You is here. Good to see you, Bill. Let's start with that the audience is reacting somewhat differently than the players that are getting a lot of attention. Talk about that divide.
Yeah, there's a huge divide among NFL fans and their perspective on first Colin Kaepernick and now a swath of NFL players and in some cases owners protesting or doing something different during the national anthem. Now, some fans around the NFL cheered and were supportive on social media, but a good number went the other direction. You could hear the boos at the Patriots game, something Patriots quarterback Tom Brady talked about being very unusual to hear for him in an NFL game. So just like a lot of things as it relates to this issue, issues of race and this president, it's a very divisive situation with people with very different perspectives.
Tonight's game, they're called America's team, the Cowboys. Their owner, Jerry Jones, has in the past said, don't disrespect the flag. What do you expect to happen tonight?
It's hard to know what's going to happen. I got to be honest, I was shocked by the number of players who either kneeled or linked arms. The Steelers, except for one player actually not coming out during the national anthem. That's a sea change. I think we've seen a catalyst, maybe one the president did not expect. I would not be surprised at all if you see a number of players on both sides, both teams decide to either link arms or to kneel. I think a lot of players that I've talked to and former players around the NFL and also the NBA feel like their sport and their position as athletes and their ability to use the First Amendment was under assault by the president. Whether that's true or not, that's a widespread perspective now in sports, and I think you'll see people respond to that.
And this is not the first time we've seen professional athletes take a political stand. By the way, that Steelers player, Alejandro Villanueva, is a veteran of 3 tours in Afghanistan, and he felt like he wanted to salute the flag. Do you expect these protests are going to continue indefinitely?
Yeah, I think this is the beginning of a battle between this White House and players. I mean, LeBron James, obviously an NBA player, not an NFL player, but he came out and called the president, "you bum." That's a pretty big term, and you had a lot of people from the NFL tweeting their support, a lot of NBA players yesterday tweeting their support to NFL players. I think you're going to see a lot of protests, a lot of harsh words, and I think what Colin Kaepernick began last year, and obviously President Trump doesn't think very highly of, it's just beginning now, I think, in terms of our sports and our politics intersecting. You
mentioned Tom Brady, and he's an interesting one in this, as well as Rex Ryan, because these are people that have voiced at least some degree of admiration and support for Trump in the past. Brady spoke in comments in a radio interview. Let's take a listen to that.
I certainly disagree with what he said, and thought it was just divisive, and like I said, it's I just want to support my teammates.
Is this situation in some ways becoming a lose-lose for players, that they're, sort of judged no matter what they do, if they do nothing or if they participate in a protest?
I think that's part of the reason you saw the response that you saw. A lot of people didn't want to be put in a position, athletes, where they felt like they were bringing politics onto the field. And I know talking to a lot of agents around the NFL and the NBA and some folks in front offices, they felt like this White House brought the politics to sports and liberated some of these players who felt inclined to have a voice, to go ahead and use it.
This is the first time we're seeing such a strong response, not just from players, but from team owners as well.
Yeah, one of the shocking things, you've got 3 team owners, the owner of the Texans, the owner in Jacksonville, and Robert Kraft with the Patriots, who actually contributed to President Trump's inauguration and sort of the fees that went into that. And we talked about Tom Brady, a close friend of President Trump. So is the owner of his team, Robert Kraft, and that he came out and gave comments that were more or less, he's disappointed in the president. That is certainly a sea change in how those folks view, at least on this issue, the president.
There is actually a group called America First Policies, which is a pro-Trump group that is bought an ad campaign asking fans to boycott the NFL. Do you think there's going to be a lot of support for a boycott the NFL movement, and does the league have to worry about that from a business standpoint at this point?
I think that's entirely plausible. A study came out last week saying that it impacted a large number of viewers in the NFL. More anecdotal, but on my national CBS Sports radio show, we have a lot of people who call in and say that they're going to give up or thinking about giving up the NFL because of this issue. So yes, I think the president's call to people to turn away from the NFL, at least among a third of the country who very much support him, I think that'll be heard, and whether it'll be followed, time will tell.
All right, Bill Reiter, thanks a lot, Bill.
You bet.
The Trump administration is rolling out a new travel ban restricting citizens from 8 countries